Hello everyone and welcome to Bobbin's Minecraft Let's Play featuring the FTB Infinity Evolved Skyblock mod pack. I believe you're watching episode 8 right now. I'm in my farm, and if you look kind of closely you might notice that there's a lot of stuff missing. My engines for power generation have been removed. All of the pipes connecting everything have mostly been removed. There's still just a little bit of floating golden pipe over there. The water distribution is gone. The power distribution is gone. All that stuff is gone because I'm going to redo it. In this episode, I am finally getting logistics pipes going. So I have actually prepared most of the stuff I'm going to need in advance and put it in this chest. And I'm going to try to go through it and get as much as I can into this episode before it starts to get really long. And so, just to start with, the first thing that every logistics pipe network needs is power. And the power comes from, not that, I wonder what's going on with that, the logistics power junction, which is made from 11 redstone and 6 iron. I think this is exactly the same as the default recipe. I've already got one made here. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need to get this to work, a basic logistics pipe. And a basic logistics pipe is made from these components, which are exactly the same as what's needed for the recipe in the default setting, I think. It's been a while since I played this with default settings, but except that this glass up the top would be ordinary glass in the ordinary setting, and possibly you might be able to get away with a golden gear instead of a golden chipset. I don't know about that, but I do know about the glass. The glass is hardened glass here to key it to your progression. And it turns out I have a whole bunch of those, so I'll just grab some of those. You also need any sort of buildcraft pipes that are for transport pipes that are not special. You don't want iron pipes or diamond pipes or anything like that. There is some compatibility in there, but you really don't want them. I like to use golden pipes because they give the fastest throughput. So what I'm actually going to do here in my setup is I want to sort of make everything. I'm eventually going to take this and move it all the way across to the other side, right alongside this power pipe. So I'm just going to extend this a little and come out this way some. I may have to tear part of this down, we'll just see. And in order to hook this up, it has to be able to receive power, and it has to connect adjacent to a basic logistics pipe. And so I'm going to go ahead and just hook this up right, tough call. I'm not entirely sure that I want that in that spot right there, because I might want to continue this power pipe along the way. I'll tell you what, why don't I put it right Wow. Decisions. Let me extend the power pipe a little bit, and maybe I will find a place that I like a little better. Because I'd kind of like to run these in parallel for a ways. And this block actually has to have the pipe for, I know, let's hook the power back up to this thing, sort of, or at least get it close. In order to do this, I have to go underneath or above 1. And before I was going above, that might be the best option now. If I do that, then the logical place to do it is right there. kind of like that. And so that would bring that down there. And I have a little bit of a spot here where I can put this. I'll just put it right there. And this should begin charging immediately. It holds 2 million LP, where each LP is like 2 RF. So it'll take a while to charge up. But it doesn't matter that it takes a while to charge up. So I need to go ahead and replace this pipe next to it with a basic logistics pipe. If I can. Alright, so now we have this connected to the network, and our logistics pipe system doesn't actually have anything going on it, but it is connected up. The next thing that I need to do is I need to go ahead and set up a default route. You always want to have some place on the network where things are going to go if they don't have anywhere else to go. And to do that, I need to designate a default route. So I'm just going to take and put a basic logistics pipe here, and I'm going to right click it on it with a wrench, and I'm going to click default route yes. And it is not going to be requesting any specific items. It's just going to say default route yes. So anything that has nowhere to go on this network will go here, except that I have not done one other thing that's very important. Anywhere that you have an intersection of pipes in this network, you need to put a basic logistics pipe or some other logistics pipe. This one doesn't have to be the basic one, but you've got to put some logistics pipe in that location so that the system will know to route the items through that point. I now have this hooked up, so any item that was in the network at some point between these two pipes would eventually hit one of the pipes, and then no matter which one of them it hit, it would be sent to this chest because there's nowhere else on the network for things to go. To set up a place for things to go, what I need to do is use some sort of pipe that will tell it where to go. And I think the first thing I'm actually going to hook up is not going to be for items. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the fluids for the farm blocks. So I need to get fluids here and here. By fluids I just mean water, and water will come from here. So the pipes I'm going to use to do that are the fluid provider pipe, which tells the network that the fluid in the attached containers is available to the network, and the fluid supplier pipe, which says let's keep this block supplied with the particular fluid that I'm configured for. I can just hook this one up here. It's not going to do anything because it doesn't have power and it's not connected to the network, but I can still come over here, and the provider doesn't have any configuration, so right-clicking it on the wrench does nothing. However, this one is a little different. If I come over here and right-click on it, I have to pick the fluid. So I can just pick water, which is the first one. There are a whole lot of fluids in this mod pack. So you got liquefied coal, steam, hot spring water, Benny's juice red grape. So there's just a ton of different fluids in here, and we'll use several of them, but nowhere near all of these will get used. But I'll just pick water. The amount of fluid that I want to keep in this thing is going to be related to its capacity. It holds 10,000 water, which means 10 buckets. And so what I want to do is tell it that we want to keep 10,000 stocked. And for partial is no. This says, can I send less than a bucket at a time? And the answer to that is no. And the minimum mode, 1 bucket. Do I want it to send 1 bucket at a time? Whenever it's short 1 bucket, should it send 1? When it's short 2 buckets, should it send 1? When it's short 5 buckets, should it send 1? I'm going to send it at 5, I think. Basically, the less often you send, the less traffic you generate on your logistics network, and the less lag you have, and the smoother everything runs. I wouldn't want none for sure, because that would say just always just keep requesting as fast as possible. But I think 5 buckets will actually work pretty well. It may not. If it doesn't, then I'll have to reevaluate that. So let's hook this up to the network. At the moment it has plenty of water, so it shouldn't try requesting any. But now this is on the network, and we can actually get water here. Now over here on this one, I need a supplier pipe here, and we're going to do this one the same way. 5 buckets, water, 10,000, and we'll just come along here. And you'll notice this did not connect to this machine, only the basic logistics pipes do. So this one is also now set up to receive water, but it doesn't need any, so it's not going to get any. The way that this works, actually, you'll notice that these are not Buildcraft fluid pipes. They don't need to be fluid pipes, they need to be item pipes, because logistics pipes will create an item to represent the fluid being sent through it and send it through these pipes between the destinations. Next step is to set up the rest of the farm items. I need to actually, before I do that, I need someplace to put them all. I don't want everything to go into the default route. The default route is actually just to collect all the stuff that you haven't already provided for somehow. And you should try not to be filling it up, because if you're filling it up, eventually it will overflow. That's why I'm using a diamond chest here, because it's a nice big chest that can hold whatever comes through for a while. But I do want to go ahead and make it so that this bank of storage drawers holds most of the items that are going to come through. And the way I'm going to do that is, rather than using a specialized pipe, I'm going to use a general pipe called a Logistics Chassis Mark II. And I'm going to put in certain modules in it. The modules I'm going to use are the provider module, which says make all of the items you find in this inventory available on the network for requesting. And I'm going to use the polymorphic item sync, which means if you find anything in this on the network that matches the stuff that's in this inventory, go ahead and send that item here too. So to hook this up, I need one more pipe, I guess. Oh, I have some gold pipes here. So it's connected up. This pipe by itself does nothing. It is a legitimate logistics pipe for purposes of putting in an intersection or something, but other than that, it just really doesn't do anything. So I need to put some modules in it. The provider module essentially says provide these items, or if it's empty, everything, onto the network. And there are a number of different modes here. The default mode that I like to keep things on is leave one item per type. This will keep it from emptying a drawer and clearing it out if I forgot to lock it. I usually lock drawers that I put on networks like this so that they never forget what they're supposed to have in them and start accepting other items instead. That is what happens if the drawer goes empty. But in this case, I like to just go ahead and, just to be safe, tell it just always leave one item in there. Include this is a white list. If you were to go and hit exclude, that's a black list. That's basically what's in here. You can say to provide only certain items, up to 9 of them. In this case, it's going to provide every item in the inventory. And the way that storage drawers work for purposes of logistics pipes, and for that matter for applied energistics when we get to that, is that drawer controllers and drawer slaves or slave controllers, whatever they call them, act as though they are inventories that contain all of the things that are in the storage drawers. And that can actually be very convenient sometimes, like in the case of this compacting drawer. Even though the sand is only in here once, there are 3 different representations of it, and as far as the network is concerned, all of these are available in all of these different representations. So if I just stuff sand in it over and over again, but I request double compressed sand, then effectively it converts on the fly. That's really nice for converting metal between nuggets and blocks, sand or dirt or cobble between the regular and compressed forms, and so on. Next, I need to get items into the network, and the easiest way to do that is to come over to just one other thing. I didn't put my polymorphic item sync in. This is what actually allows items that are already in here to be matched up with items in the network to be sent here. Next, I need to get some items out of the farms, and for that I'm also going to use the chassis pipes, but I'm going to use slightly different modules in them. I'm going to use the active supplier and the extractor. Alright, so what the extractor does is it works just like a wooden pipe in that it pulls items out. So any items that are in the output inventory on this thing will get pulled out. What the other module does, the active supplier, is it allows me to have this machine request particular items off the network. And the items I'm going to request, I think there's only the one, it's the fertilizer. And I'm going to tell it to keep 32 fertilizer in this thing, and the bulk 50 means when it's out of half of it, when it gets down to 16, it'll go and request 16 off of the network to fill its quota. It's got other request modes, bulk 100, when you're completely empty, request the whole amount, infinite, just keep requesting until you've got what you need. Partial, actually partial is to keep requesting until you get what you need. Infinite just says just keep requesting, don't even pay any attention to this quantity. Trying to remember what that is, but bulk 50 is usually what you want because it means you won't run out, usually, and it won't generate just a huge amount of requests across the network. So bulk 50, which is the default, is fine. And I don't have any of that on here. Now I'm just going to put it in here. This will not get picked up from this location. So I actually have a different solution for that. Let me go ahead and hook this up to the main network. So I'll pull this across. It's now connected up. Again, on here I have to have a basic logistics pipe or some other logistics pipe at the intersection to route the items. So we have that. Doing the same thing over here. The hatch is that one right there. We'll put the active supplier in. We'll put the extractor in. The extractor is capable of sneaky. There are actually several extractors. This one's the Mark II. The Mark I extractor is so slow that you should only use it for the absolute slowest of things. That is why I have not used it. I went ahead and upgraded it. Active supplier. We want to keep some fertilizer on there. Alright. Now I need to go ahead and hook up power to these things. You can run power through the logistics pipes network. It's a little bit more of an advanced feature than what I'm ready to do at this point. But I may do it sometime. Let's do it there. And I'll just keep this up high until it gets to the point that it needs to be. Alright. Kinda ugly, but it's gonna work out okay, I think. The other thing that we need in here potentially is dirt in this one. This farm over here doesn't consume dirt, but this one over here, because it's doing the trees, you can see where this block has become sand. It gradually converts dirt to sand. We have dirt available here, so if it needs dirt, it can get it. Let's come over here and tell it on the active supplier to also keep it supplied with a full stack of dirt. So it will actually only request it in halves. If I go and pull out the dirt that's in it, well, it's actually sending dirt right now. So there, that dirt just went in. Some more dirt went in. So it's getting the dirt that it needs. And you're also seeing items come out of here like that block of wood, and it's going through, and it's actually coming over here, and it's going into the storage drawers. So the system is working. It's at very low power right now because it's just being powered by these survivalist generators, but it is working. Alright, speaking of survivalist generators, I want to go ahead and hook these up so that they are automatically fueled. And the way to do that, I'm going to use these supplier logistics pipes, which work just like the supplier module that you saw a minute ago, except that they, wow, that's kind of, it's fine, but it's like a wall of pipes here, and it's a little ugly, but it will do what I need it to do. So they work just like the supplier module, except they're a standalone pipe. So if I come over here and configure each one of these, I can tell it, just keep a stack of charcoal in there. And there's actually a lot of charcoal in the bank of storage drawers right now. Why did that? Oh. Sometimes if you don't click in quite the right place on these, it doesn't put in the whole stack. It just puts in one. Alright, so double checking these, click in the middle of each plus. That's probably the best way to see what you're doing. And so each one of these should now be supplied with charcoal until we run out. Alright, next on the list, I need to get my power up and going again. I do have 4 biogas engines. They were all running before. I need to supply these with fuel. And to do that, I'm going to be using the fermenter that I was using before, but also a squeezer. What the squeezer does is it squeezes certain things, typically fruits or seeds, to get a product out, oil, or in this case fruit juice. And sometimes you get mulch as a side benefit, and we will actually be getting some mulch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hook up this squeezer right, I'll just put it right here. And I'm going to hook up the fermenter just a couple blocks down. And I need to connect these somehow. I've been using my newly acquired thermal expansion quite a bit. So I do have some temperate fluid ducts here. I'll just take and put a servo on that and set it so it's not powered, or set it so that it's always active. And now this squeezer will be able to provide fruit juice to the fermenter. Fruit juice increases the productivity of the fermenter by 50%. So I need to go ahead and hook these up, and what I'm going to use the supplier pipe to do that again. No, I actually don't want to use the supplier pipe for that one. I want to use, yeah, I'm going to have to, I don't have everything prepared quite the way I need it because I didn't anticipate appropriately what I'm going to need for the squeezer. But that's okay, I will get it figured out. So I need to set this one up with the logistics chassis, and it's going to need a supplier and an extractor. And I don't have either of those at the moment, but I will go ahead and make them in a shortcut in just a minute. The other one, which is the fermenter, I really only need a supplier. If I get some pipes and hook all these up, alright. Now what the fermenter is going to require is it's going to require mulch and saplings. So I'm going to tell this, I'll leave it at bulk 50, but I'm going to tell it that it needs, the exact number doesn't matter that much, as long as it's no more than what it can hold. So 48 is fine. Here, I'll just tell it needs a full stack of saplings. So it's already requesting these items. They're coming through, and they're filling up the appropriate slots. Alright. Now, one reason for using mulch on this is to conserve fertilizer. The farm blocks require fertilizer. There are a variety of things you can use in the fermenter, and one of them is mulch, which is actually produced as a side effect of the operation of this machine. This is not going to connect up here, but I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Now, let's get some power down here. And it will not start. Now, before I was using water in this machine, but I'm going to be using fruit juice now. So these machines are accumulating some power, but they don't have any work to do yet. Let me go ahead and take that cut, and I'm going to make some more of these golden transport pipes so that I'll be sure that I have enough, and I'm going to make the modules that I need in this. Alright, continuing. I need to go, I have the modules, so I'm going to configure the pipe connected to the squeezer. For the squeezer, I want to extract all of the mulch that it creates, so I'm just going to put that in there. And the thing that it makes the fruit juice from, and the mulch from for that matter, is apples. And this machine can hold a lot of apples. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to load a whole bunch of them in here, because there's no reason to be skimpy on apples. It'll hold 9 stacks. That might actually be plenty right there. So it's going and processing here. It doesn't really have enough power because I haven't gotten the biogas engines back on the network yet, but it is taking and producing fruit juice from these apples, which is going over here and being used to make biomass. Now, before, when I was running the engines over here, I had them set up so that they were being supplied by a Buildcraft fluid pipe, and I was just pumping the fluid out of this fermenter and delivering it over to them. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go ahead and operate this on the logistics network, and I'm going to hook up a fluid provider pipe right there and then connect it up so it's on the network, and this block now provides the fluids. I'm going to set up the biogas engines somewhere else that's not really particularly close to this, that will allow me to sort of set them up somewhere where things will not be quite as cluttered. And to do that, I'm going to need some power pipes, and I'm going to need some levers, and I'm going to need some of these fluid ducts. And I'm missing just a couple things here, and so because it's going to take me a minute to craft them, let me see if I've got what I need over here. I definitely need my wooden power pipes. This tank is one that I need, but it's got fruit juice in it right now. So I'm going to have to empty the fruit juice out of this tank. I could mostly do that with a bucket, but I couldn't do it completely with a bucket. Let me take another cut and I'll be back when I've got the tank available. There is one other item I've got to craft. I've just got to get another servo, and I will be right back. Alright, I'm back and I'm ready to start setting up my engines. Before I do that, I am going to go ahead and hook up the power to this multi-block farm. So I will hook up that power right there. Alright. And I haven't really given a whole lot of thought to where I want to set these up. I want to set them up somewhere. I can put them anywhere on the platform. I don't mind if the platform is sort of a little messy and scattered around. But I do want to set them up somewhere where I don't have to... I don't want to cover up my lights with them. And I don't want to have... I want to be able to put them in there without trying to tear things down or tear out the floor or anything like that, without having to make space if I decide to expand. I'm actually thinking that if I just come through here like this and expand this area, I can go ahead and put the wooden pipes here, and then I can put down the 4 engines that I have handy, and I'll just rotate those with the wrench. Just like that. And for the fluids, I'm going to have them go into this tank, and I'll put the tank right there, and I will run the temperate fluid ducts along here. Now, the fluid duct is over the light, but that's not a problem because it's not going to block the light. And I'll just put a servo in here so that fluids can be pumped out of this tank and go into the engines. Now, the engines themselves require a redstone signal to operate, and I'm just going to put some levers down on the floor like I had last time. They also require lava to start up. These machines, a lot of engines require cooling. These require heating. They have to be heated up before they will actually burn their fuel. So you do have to put some lava in them. Once they're started, they retain their heat, but if you turn them off and they cool down, then turn them back on again, they'll have to heat up again. So if you were doing some sort of big power plant with them that was intended to run unattended for long periods of time, you would not do what I'm doing by manually scooping lava into them. But I'm just going to put a couple buckets of lava into each engine here, and that should be enough to last for a long time before I have to go and do it again. In fact, it will probably be the case that they will have all the lava they need until I break them down and move them, replacing them with something else. So, last bucket of lava, got to make sure I put it in the right engine. It should be the one right there. Alright, so in order to get the fluid in these tanks, the fuel, all I have to do is put it in this tank, and for that I can use the appropriate logistics pipes. For the intersection, I'll have to have a basic one, and then I can use a fluid supplier right there. So I'll break that and pop it in. If an item happens to be coming through there when you do that, it will shoot out into the world. You'll just have to pick it up and do something with it. And then right here we're going to supply fluid. And the fluid I want to supply, I got to find in the list. It's this one right here. It's biomass. And we'll just put this one on 5 buckets. And this is a large portable tank. It'll hold up to 128 buckets. So I'm going to go ahead and put a lot of fuel in this so that I have some buffered up in case I run out of saplings for a while or something like that. So I'll just have this hold 120 fuel. And it should... I don't see where it's doing it yet. We've got biomass in there. And it is on the network. Guess I'll have to cut and figure this one out. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I told it it could request partial and it started filling up. So, hopefully that will not present a problem. It shouldn't, because there's really a limit to how fast this thing can make fuel anyway. And as soon as I have a full bucket of fuel in at least one of these engines, and I do in all of them it looks like, I can fire them up and start generating massively more power. Alright, so I just added 200 RF per tick there, so things should start moving along pretty quickly. This fermenter can actually consume a ton of power and generate a lot of this biomass. It won't have any trouble keeping up with these 4 engines. I've already observed that from before, and I'm not sure how many it will handle, but it's got to be at least 5, I think. I guess I'll just have to find out. It will handle more because it's got the fruit juice available to it. And I disconnected the power to that machine because I wanted to make sure that I had some fuel available. So let's hook the power back up on here. So we're now squeezing the apples down. You saw the mulch get sucked out of there just a second ago. The apple juice is going into here, and it's being used as a multiplier on the amount of biomass it's creating. It creates 50% more that way. So we'll have fuel coming through here. We're generating all that stuff. There is one other thing that I want to do before I go ahead and call this episode. I'm going to hook up one more machine over here, and that is, I'm going to set up a redstone furnace, and I'm going to tell it to make charcoal. And the way I'm going to do that, you could do this a number of ways. You could do it with some sort of crafting or something, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to set this thing up so that it is continuously supplied. I'll input in the back, and it's going to be continuously supplied with wood, but not that way. Did I have another chassis pipe? I don't. You know, I don't think this is how I wanted to do this. I need to go ahead and make another pipe over here, and I will do it on air this time. Let's go for the iron chipset, and I need 2 pieces of iron, which I don't have any up here. Should have some right there. Alright, we'll put one of these here, iron chip. There, this makes the logistics chassis Mark II. And I'm going to tell this, not really a good spot for it, is it? Let's move it up 1. For this, I'm going to use a module called the passive supplier module. And the passive supplier module works a little bit like a supplier. but it doesn't actually request the items actively off the network. Instead, if there's room in here and it needs to fill the quota, and there are items sort of floating around the network, they will try to go in this machine before they go off to where their items sync to. The passive supplier works like an item sync, except that it's got a little bit higher priority. I mean, that's really how it works. So if I hook this up, wood that's coming out of here should start making its way into this machine, and some of it just did there. But it didn't go and actively request it. It just happened to get some passively. Now if I put some power up there, this machine will start powering up. Now to get the items in the network, one of the things you can do with these machines is you can just tell them to spit it straight out into the network. You don't even have to use a logistics pipe necessarily. It'll come out the side over here, and since there's only one way for it to go, it'll go through here and into the logistics network. The item effectively enters the network as soon as it hits a logistics pipe. So we should have charcoal coming out of here one of these days. Apparently it's not getting a whole lot of power. Alright, and that will allow this charcoal over here to be replenished instead of it just completely running out from these devices. And that's going to actually be all I talk about for logistics pipes today. There actually was one other thing I wanted to do, but I don't think I've really got time, and that is up here somewhere I've got to craft fertilizer so that I can keep these farm blocks supplied with fertilizer. And I am going to do that, and it's going to get done pretty soon, but it's going to be off air. I am, however, going to have to start setting up automated crafting with logistics pipes on the other side of the base, also between episodes, but I will discuss automated crafting extensively, and that will basically cover what I wanted to talk about with the fertilizer. So that will take care of all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and call it an episode. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.